Dr. James Merritt is with us, the author of this incredible book, Still Standing, 8 Winning Strategies for Facing Tough Times. And this is our offer this month, and we're asking for your support to Crossroads. But when you receive this book, you're going to receive literally a treasure. You know, in my book acquisition, everywhere I went to a bookstore and hunted books, and in London, the old books. There's a few books like this one that they're just like to be read every 6 months. They remind you of such important truths in all the wins and blows and hurts of life. Chapter about when life seems to be against you. There's many people who can relate to that chapter. You know, I just have too much against me to win. Talk to us.
You know, even the President of the United States at any given time has half the country against him, right?
Right.
And as a pastor especially, and if you're out there today, if you're a leader or the CEO of a corporation, or if you're in any kind of leadership position, you've got to understand that people are going to be against you. Criticism is a part of life. Opposition is a part of life. Every church I ever pastored, Jerry, every single church, I always had at least one person that had the spiritual gift of criticism. I mean, always. I remember one time I pastored a little country church, my second little church pastored out in the country. There was a guy that he'd always come to Wednesday night. We had business meetings once a month. He wouldn't come to prayer meeting, come to business meeting. And he always come to business meeting for one purpose. He'd find something to vote no on. That was him. And I remember one time I got in the flesh and he hadn't said anything. I found out later he had the flu, he didn't feel well, and he hadn't said anything all meeting. Could not stand it. I just finally looked at him and I said, John, would you just stand up and lead us in a word of criticism? I mean, there are just people that just, you know, have that gift. Well, this is why I guess the chapter that may speak to me the most in terms of just what I do being a pastor is Nehemiah. Because Nehemiah, as you know, if you don't know the story, was given this impossible task of rebuilding the city wall around Jerusalem. He had no funds, he had no capital, he had no influence, he had no political connections, and he was just told, sure, if you want to go rebuild the wall, rebuild it, and he only did it because this is what God had laid on his heart. Well, as if that weren't hard enough, everybody was against him. The political powers that be were against him. The people that were jealous of what he was trying to do was against him. The people that thought it was going to hurt commerce and business was against him. So here was a man that was given not only an impossible task with no help, but had to face this tidal wave of opposition, which we've all had to do.
Well, in chapter 6, Sanballat, Tobiah, and Geshem, the critics of life. How do we deal with these people?
You know, one of my favorite movies is Karate Kid.
Yeah, me too.
And there's one little, you know, one of the most famous scenes in the book when Mr. Miyagi looks at Daniel and he says, focus. Mm-hmm. Well, that is so true. If you're going to be a leader and really get things done, you've got to learn how to focus. And I mean be focused on such a way when you're convinced this is where I need to go, this is what God wants me to do, this is what I need to accomplish. You get so focused on that goal, you just don't let the opposition deter you. There's one statement in the book of Nehemiah that I think is one of the greatest statements in the Bible, and in fact, it's worth reading the whole book to read this one statement. It's that famous statement when he's up on the ladder and he's up there putting brick by brick on the wall, and they're trying to get him to come down and talk and negotiate, and he makes that great statement, Jerry, I'm doing a great work, and I cannot come down. And one of the things that leaders have to learn is when you're doing a great work, when you're really involved in what it is that you know you need to be doing, you just say, you know, in spite of the opposition, in spite of the criticism, I'm not here to please you, I'm here to please Him, and I'm going to keep doing what I do. The way that I think that I've learned to deal with criticism is this. Number one, in all of criticism, Jerry, as you know, there's always a kernel of truth, right? You can always find something that can help you. But then you have to ask us a real simple question about criticism. Is it justified to the point that I need to respond to it or not? Because one of the mistakes people make is this. They make two big mistakes on both extremes. Some people never respond to criticism at all. That makes them look arrogant.
Right.
Some people respond to every criticism. It not only takes them off the task, it makes them look weak.
Sure.
Wisdom is knowing, you know, Solomon said in Proverbs, answer a fool according to his folly, lest he be wise in his own conceit. Then turned right around and said, don't answer a fool according to his folly, lest you be just like him. There are times you respond, there are times that you don't, and you have to be wise and discerning, but even when you do it quickly, but don't come off that ladder, and keep doing what you know God's called you to do.
I'm always humored by the story of Billy Graham at Wheaton when he was dating this Emily, who dumped him because she was convinced Billy would never become something. Christians sometimes have a tendency to pull back about believing in yourself. They say, well, that's kind of new age. And it really isn't. I mean, if you don't believe, no one else is going to believe. How important is it for people listening today who want to lose weight or get a better job or whatever their goals are, to believe in what they're doing and then to expect that there's going to be a bunch of hurdles as they take off?
Well, and I would direct this especially to followers of Jesus Christ. Philippians 4:13 is a true statement. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. Every word of this is important. I can. So you've got to believe in yourself, right? I can do all things, not most things, all things, through Christ. It's not me doing it by myself. It's me doing it with Him, right, through Him, by Him, and for Him. So I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. And I think the key is if you believe in the Christ that lives in you, then you ought to also believe in the Christ who believes in you. Christ believed in us enough to die on the cross for our sins, even in spite of the fact we didn't deserve it. He didn't die, of course, because we did deserve it. He died in spite of the fact that He didn't. You and I are sitting right here today, Jerry, because Jesus saw something in us that most everybody else might not have seen. And I would say to everyone that's out there today, Jesus sees things in you. He sees potential in you. He sees possibilities in you that maybe no one else sees, maybe you don't even see. But if you'll trust the Christ that lives within you and stay focused on what He's called you to do, you'll be greatly successful.
And, you know, many people don't know what their spiritual gifts are. And so I love what Swindoll says, when you discover them, there's ease and effectiveness, but there's fulfillment. Talk about spiritual gifts, because spiritual gifts equip.
Yep.
And they give us a sense of getting the job done.
One of my heroes and our hero, Adrian Rogers, preached a great message one time, and the title of it was, "You Are a Gifted Child." And here was the theme of his whole message, and it really is true. When you talk about spiritual gifts, everybody's gifted, Jerry. Everybody. I don't care. And it's not a matter of education. It's not a matter of influence. It's not a matter of what your last name was. It doesn't matter whether you were born with a silver spoon or no spoon. Everybody is gifted. God gifts everyone. He gives us passions. He gives us abilities. He gives us desires. And our job in life, as you've already said, find what that is. Because it's not something you came up with. It's something God placed in your heart. Find what that is and then go for it. I wanted to be a lawyer. I didn't want to save them. I wanted to sue them. Okay? I wanted to be an attorney. And all of my life, right up to the day I graduated from college.
I'm glad you didn't become a lawyer.
It was geared to becoming a lawyer. But God put a passion within me and a desire within me to be a preacher of the gospel. And I say this humbly, that's my gift. God has gifted me, just like God has gifted you. So whatever that gift is, whatever that passion is, find it and then let God fulfill it, so that you'll have a life that will be the most meaningful life you could live.
And in this final minute, leadership essentials are in this book. And I don't care if you're a mother, a husband, whatever, leadership is crucial for whatever role you have. Just impart for just a few moments the leadership clues that you've put in Still Standing, 8 winning strategies for facing tough times.
Here's what I'd say. I'd say 3 things, and because I do believe that contrary to popular opinion, character is important for leadership. I really do. And here's the 3 things I would say as a leader. It's always right to do right. It is never wrong to do right. And it's never right to do wrong. And if you'll go to your work, if you'll go to your marriage, if you'll go to your parenting, if you'll go to every area of your life, the way you handle your money, the way you handle, your employees, and if you'll keep that in mind, it's always right to do right, never wrong to do right, and it's never right to do wrong. God will keep His hand on you.
Dr. James Merritt is with us, and the book Still Standing is our offer this month for your gift to the many ministries of Crossroads.